Hello and welcome to the virtual podcast. My name is Emily. I'm your host, and today I'm here with Alex Bodriagin. I'm pretty sure I butchered your name again, even though I've practiced this, but Alex is the founder of BookATestDrive, which is a platform that is streamlining the buying process and connecting car buyers with dealers. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Emily.
So I know that your journey as an entrepreneur has started with your love for tech. Can you tell me a little bit about how you started BookATestDrive and how you found a problem that you needed to solve?
Yeah, sure. I guess let's go down memory lane. I've been in the automotive industry for over 15 years now, having started in the dealership space. So for those that know have bought a car, I used to be on the receiving end, so I was that salesperson that used to walk up to a customer, and all of a sudden I'd see all the walls go up, and I'd see the energy, the anxiousness of the situation. So I realised straight away that I needed to make people feel as comfortable as possible. However, I realised there was a massive pain point. The other thing I noticed straight away was customers would walk in, they'd think their trade-in's worth a particular amount. They were thinking that their budget for finance was in a particular realm. Then all of a sudden they didn't quite understand the full cost of ownership. So they'd go home. So I went, okay, that's not quite there as well. So when we started BookATestDrive, we started to focus on all the pain points of the current industry. And it's no surprise that people are still pretty anxious about going into a dealership. So we're addressing dealership anxiety as the cornerstone of everything that we do. The stat is 65% of people still get nervous when buying a car or get anxious. And that's pretty much for most people.
It's a big investment at the end of the day. Of course, you're going to be a little bit nervous around it.
Yeah, certainly. And you could say these days that it could be the biggest purchase most people make for a long time, unfortunately, because of what's happening with housing. So it is a big decision. When we started BookATestDrive, we were also cautious that are people valuing the test drive less and less because of all the online digital space as well with tech. It seems to be that because of this reason as well, people still want to make sure if they're investing that much money into a product that they want to get behind the wheel at some stage of the process as well. So that's something that's been really important. The other thing that's happening at the moment in our industry is analysis paralysis.
Yeah, right.
So that's whereby there's a recent report that it's going to be up to 70 makes on our shores in the coming years.
Right.
So being a customer and having to wade through that is becoming quite complex. So that's another third point that we want to address through BookATestDrive. But effectively at the core, once we saw all these pain points, we thought we want to be able to usher people from research to action, because the manufacturer websites are really good, but there's no real easy way that exists for customers to have a platform where they can test drive and organise multiple bookings. So we wanted to bring all those makes and models onto one platform where customers could easily schedule in to see and view different vehicles to their choosing. And that's where we're going towards customising that process and narrowing customers in on a particular make and model to make it a lot easier for them as well. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. But effectively, how it works is customer comes onto our platform, they are able to select a day and time that's suitable for them. Then we connect them to one of our trusted co-drivers. We call them co-drivers for salespeople, because if you think about it, the customer is the test driver, and then we put them in touch with one of our trusted co-drivers. And so that alleviates some of the dealership anxiety because they're tried and tested by us. But then we also have a really cool window between where customers said, I'd like to test drive it on Saturday, and they've scheduled it on Monday. Now we've got a window where we can start to empower the customer. So this is where we provide information that's relevant to the customer, finance, insurance, and we give an obligation-free quote for the trade-in, for example. That way a customer knows the full cost of the owning of the vehicle. So by the time they actually get into store, they're very empowered and comfortable, confident, and it makes it easier to actually just enjoy the drive without having all these other surprises that come up where you have to go home and think about it. And part of that is also providing negotiation support and support levels for customers, and they can easily choose between that. Some people are pretty competent. They just go, look, just book me in, connect me with an awesome professional, and other people need a little bit more hand-holding and guidance. So we offer different levels of support for those customers as well. So that's, in a nutshell, generally how we operate. So
I feel like you're putting a lot of dads out of a job, taking
That's
their
such a good
kids.
call out.
Honestly,
That's
the
fantastic.
times when I've gone to buy a car, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to need your help because I can't go in there. I'm not going to be negotiating by myself. It's
Yes,
scary.
You're the perfect target audience for us. Is if someone's pretty competent with the negotiation process, they love that process. That's sort of not our customer. We want someone that goes, I'm sick of waiting for the callbacks. I'm really nervous. I don't want to get ripped off. Can someone just help me? I do this once every 5 years at best, and that's where we come in and assist with that process. So, yeah.
I can imagine as well from a salesperson's perspective, it's quite helpful as well because you're not having to spend that extra time educating a buyer
perfect.
on the actual purchase that they're making.
Yeah.
And by streamlining the process, it means they've got additional time to work on other things, make more sales. So
It's exactly right.
it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Well, we increase the buying cycle by doing that. What they're really good at, salespeople, is once the customer comes in, they're absolutely fantastic. It's all the stuff beforehand that's a little bit harder. It's the coordination, the management, the follow-up. All of those bits and pieces are a little bit more difficult. We've all called into a place and the teleprompter comes and you've got to select from the menu, come through, someone's unavailable, you're waiting for a call back. So we get rid of all of that and basically become the planners of the car buying process. A couple of weeks ago, someone said, so you're sort of like the wedding planners of car buying. And I'm like, yeah, I guess we are. So, because you can do it yourself, but do you want to?
Right.
So I was like, yes, that's exactly what we are. And it's exactly that. We present different options and a customer goes, yeah, I like that. Are you ready to go for a drive in this car? Yeah, I am. Fantastic. What day and time suits? And then we go from there. And once the connection is made, it's perfect as well.
So how did you go about originally getting actual salespeople on board on the platform and then also potential car buyers on the platform?
Yeah, so we've split our business into two. So we do have a B2B portion of the business, a channel, and we also have a direct-to-consumer portion of the channel. So B2B for us is we've concentrated on finance and leasing companies, and they use our procurement sourcing services. And this is where we preserve and insulate them against dealerships having their own finance departments, and so we just do the connection to the dealerships that we already have that are trusted. So that's one way we actually have had customers come through the platform and see how we can make it quite seamless, and these guys absolutely love it. So we've used them initially. The goal is in the next 12 months to start opening up the digital doors as well. So that's where we're going to go from go to woe with customers. We're already getting some traction online. We do have a keyword that is searched, which is really nice to have in your name, and it is also a call to action, so it's quite obvious what we do. I know, so we're quite lucky that when people search us up or go book a test drive, we're starting to rank organically already, so that's putting us in a really strong position, and we're ranking against manufacturers and dealerships alike. So that's giving us a bit of traction with customers to come through, but we're going to be doing a lot more marketing efforts over the next 12 months to actually start to usher in a whole bunch more people through the platform and make the enhancements necessary as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
And how many car dealerships are there in Australia that you could be addressing?
Potentially, there's about 1,600 dealerships that we see as an opportunity for us. If you include some used car dealerships, it could be a little bit more. Something for us is a lot of, if we were to talk about other potential companies that do something similar, we would probably find that they focus on new cars. For us, our sentiment is we've heard someone say, I've bought a new car. They don't necessarily tell you if it's a new or used car. They just say, how fantastic, I've bought a new car, how nice is it? And we have that same sentiment as well built in. We go, we don't mind if it's a new or a used vehicle, we'll still assist you. The process is slightly different for a used car. It is a little bit more complex in nature because you have to provide certain options that fit the criteria. but we certainly split it up as well. So we do have emphasis on supporting used car purchases as well as part of the whole process, which is cool.
Within your scope for growth, would you consider connecting people who might be privately selling their cars?
Oh, it's not as yet. We've left that off the table. The biggest thing for us has been, the biggest challenge has been to niche down, and everything is shiny in the automotive industry because currently we're able to help with vehicle sourcing, so we can help connect customers. We can also book in for test drives. We help from a finance front, from an insurance front, and from a wholesale front, helping them with their trade-in. So at some stage, you just have to absolutely niche down on one thing. And we've said, we know that booking in for a test drive or organising that process, it opens up all of those upsell or cross-sell opportunities. So maybe one day, but for now, we're going to just absolutely target those pain points. And once we succeed on that, we'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So do you have any background in tech?
Well, interestingly, I just hired my brother who absolutely loves tech.
Okay.
So that's where the tech piece comes in. I love the UI UX portion of the business. So having been in sales and loving, working out the psychology between, how customers want to interact. I'm really focusing on that, and my brother's bringing that to life. So he's come in with a bit of sweat equity, I suppose, and building himself into the role as well. So that's pretty exciting. We're doing a technology roadmap as we speak as well. That's going to have a lot more emphasis and focus on augmented reality, because what we want to be able to do is put the customer always in the driver's seat. I know that's quite on brand for us, as we were but not to be too much of a cliche, but that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to empower customers. We're trying to put them into the driver's seat and make them feel confident at every stage. If you can imagine, if we do provide customers with that planning and provide a heap of information well in advance of them coming into a dealership, like you said before, you're going to feel like Dad's supporting you the whole way through. That's us. We're there the whole way through supporting you. If there's any challenges or questions, we always get it directed back to us. And what it also does for the salesperson's perspective is they don't need to qualify as much. They can just do what they do best. Because when you go in, they've spent all this money to get you into the doors. They don't really want to let you walk out without understanding your buying motives, when you're buying, how you're buying, can we sell you a car today? When I get involved, or when the company gets involved, we can calm the farm a little bit, and we can just provide that awesome experience. You can walk away if you need to, and then they'll talk to me and say, what did we need to do? What price was it that we would be able to do a sale? It just diffuses everything, provides a really stress-free car buying experience.
So obviously this is all new to you, starting a business,
definitely
doing something in tech. How did you even go about creating a tech platform in the beginning? And how hard was it? Because I'm imagining that it would be so difficult, particularly if that's not your background.
Yes. We went about creating a real MVP and just putting a lot of plugins and bolt-ons just to get it to do what it needs to do. And now that's painted the picture of where we want it to head to. So it's effectively having the idea in the first place is probably the biggest thing, and knowing what we wanted our customers to be able to have access to. So for example, some of the stuff we're working on at the moment is we have our certified dealer network, and we also run on a local dealership mentality. So some people go, are you going to send me to the other side of the city? And we say, no, the first point of call, we want it to be in your prime market. So we want it to be at a local level. But there's also a situation, there's multiple dealerships for that particular make in that zone. So we also want our customers to be able to review those dealerships after the test drive and say, fantastic, that was okay, that wasn't, and then be able to put that on the platform.
Ah, okay.
And further to that, then the actual vehicle that they test drove, we want them to review that vehicle as well. So we're building the smarts around that. And that's because we know that as a car buyer ourselves, we would want to know the genuine feedback on that particular car. The challenge at the moment in market, we believe, is media companies are skewed sometimes from a manufacturer level.
Yeah.
And we thought to ourselves, if a customer actually reviews this vehicle as whatever the star rating is, we know that it's a genuine rating for the vehicle. So I think that would be really beneficial to the market from a car buying perspective. And furthermore, if you've now got an option of, say, 3 dealerships in your area and you can see which ones are better than the others, once again, this is not going to be a Google review. This is, where, we pump them up. This is going to be genuine customer reviews for that dealership. So, and so there'll be some smarts built in from that perspective as well. But again, to answer your question, we're just looking at it from the customer's lens and going, what would be absolutely amazing and beneficial from this perspective? To assist with that process.
In terms of the community and getting people involved in the actual development of your business and the platform as a whole, how do you go about getting feedback and actually implementing that feedback?
Yeah, really, really good question. At the moment, we're also launching a Book a Test Drive button widget.
Okay,
so because we are, you may have noticed on every manufacturer's website and every dealership's website, if you do want to engage with that particular vehicle, there's a Book a Test Drive as a call to action, right? So we're going to create that button for our partners to start to beta test and start the testing phase of that process and start iterating through that. So we've got 2 that have our early, our first iteration of our widget online, and it's been quite good, but we're going to start getting their feedback, so our clients' feedback. They will have a different style of widget because they'll tell us who the partner is and then who their customer is. So we've got to engage back from a B2B perspective, from a communication, but it's a lot easier to iterate using them and telling us what would be good, how can we connect it back, how can we API into this, and so we're going to start doing that piece. As of next week, we're going to start promoting it quite heavily.
It actually kind of reminds me of a business that a friend of mine started, and it was, he ended up selling it to REA, and it was basically, it was called One Form, and you would fill out a form if you were doing a rental application. You only had to fill it out once, whereas previously you'd have to fill out a form for every single rental application. So then they pitched it to REA and they thought, obviously, great idea, we'd integrate this into the platform, and then eventually it got purchased. I feel like that's kind of what you could achieve with Book a Test Drive as well.
Yeah. We see manufacturers really getting interested in this product and service offering at the same time. The challenge of the industry is the consistency of customer experience. Unfortunately, there's a legacy issue that is involved through the franchise model, and the franchise model means that they are individual business units out there. So that's already it's a bit conflicted. Everyone wants a great customer experience for their customer, especially at a brand level. So we see ourselves being able to integrate at that level and ushering and managing that process because we're already working with the dealer network. What we're doing is that initial piece between the OEM and the dealership, we're placing ourselves right in the middle of that process and basically smoothing it all out for customers, for OEMs, for dealers alike. So yes, we can reapply the tech back through to the manufacturer and help them with this process. And we are having conversations around that as well. There's just so many applications that we can use this potentially as well. The irony is, to that point as well, is we really shouldn't exist, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I say that in jest, but we shouldn't exist because if the manufacturer wasn't conflicted with the franchise model and it was interconnected and they could make promises, for example, which day and time would you like to drive this vehicle, we'll make sure the vehicle's ready and it wasn't an issue at a local level around Australia, then there would be no need for us. But because there's a customer experience challenge, because they're relying on their dealer network to fulfill that promise, there's already a little bit of a challenge there. So there's no real easy way that currently exists, and that's where we come in. So that's where I identified there was a real opportunity. If you go online right now and there's really only 2 options, you configure the vehicle and you can say request a call back from a dealership or book a test drive. They're the 2. You press it and then you're waiting.
Right.
You're waiting for someone to call you, hopefully from that particular dealership. When that'll happen, nobody knows. If you put an inquiry with us, we're going to start confirming the booking. We're going to be calling you straight away, making sure we've picked the right dealership that has availability for the car and it's suitable. Are you looking at any other vehicles at the same stage that we can connect you with as well? And we're going to be able to help through that process. Could you imagine if you had 3 or 4 options that you're doing that with, and by the end of it, it's a bit of a minefield? Not to mention that analysis paralysis we mentioned earlier and trying to wade through, is this the right car? Have I made the right decision? There's a stat that's post-COVID, people are researching cars for about 6.5 months now.
That's crazy.
Pre-COVID, it was around 3 months.
I wonder what the mentality is and the psychology around that and why it's doubled.
It sort of makes a little bit of sense where we went shopping crazy over COVID, and I think we started to trust websites a lot more to do our research, and I think there's a lot to be said. To be able to configure a vehicle on a manufacturer's website has come a long, long way. So I think people are spending a lot more time doing it. They're jumping onto the website multiple times as well. And once you start to look at it, you go, it sort of makes sense. Everyone wants to leave the dealership visit till last, for obvious reasons these days. They've sort of pushed it out. When I was selling cars, you'd remember this, if you wanted to buy a car, you went in on a Saturday and Sunday, you hopped around, you asked for brochures, you tried to get the best price, you narrowed it down, you came back and you negotiated. That's starting to change, because people are now going, hang on, I don't need to get my information from the salesperson directly. I can just jump online, learn a little bit, compare models, and now I still need the salesperson. I just need to just make sure I pick the right car. And I put it down to sometimes you have a look at the Sunnies online or something like that, you go, that's them. You even try them on virtually, but until you actually come in and properly try them on, you go, oh, they're great, And how many times you think, I'm definitely getting those sunglasses, you walk in, and then you buy a totally different pair.
Yeah.
Because they suit you, so it's the same thing as well. We say we can do all this research and we can do all this management for you and coordination, but until you actually go and sit in the car, you're instantly going to know whether it's the right car for you. It's like, yep, I feel comfortable. And we say actually gauge it by your gut in this case, or by your heart. If you sit in and it feels comfortable, it's probably the right car. If you sit in and something's a bit of a miss, or it drives and something's not right, it's a good barometer. So
I'm AI obsessed. How do you see AI coming into the business and transforming it?
Fantastic. I'll talk to it from our perspective. We want to use a couple different ways to incorporate AI. One is, of course, to have a chatbot scenario. The other one is we want to make our form be an AI voice that takes you through the actual process.
Oh, cool.
As an option. The biggest thing for us is we know that people are looking at cars when they come home, and we want to still be able to give the option of engaging with us from either a chatbot scenario, either an AI voice, that teleprompts through our actual form and narrows down and configures a particular make and model that we can then schedule a test drive for. So that's how we're looking at incorporating AI for us, because we know that people are doing it after hours more and more and more. And we want to start incorporating some flexible hours for our booking team to then be able to actually speak to customers after hours, because we know that that's becoming such a hot spot for most people as well. They want to actually speak to someone when they finished work. Unfortunately, dealerships are now closed and you're back to square one, looking at all these different websites as well. So they're the two we want to incorporate, but we sort of see it as providing customers with the option of which medium. And we also feel like there has to be an element of being able to switch between them at any point and it all being seamless as well. So you might start with the chatbot and go, hey, can you guys just tell me if I can go for a drive in this particular car? And then all of a sudden, is this the actual car that you want to go for? Or are you still a bit unsure? Oh, still a bit unsure. Would you like to speak to one of our AI assistants that can help configure down some different options and actually provide 3 other options that maybe you haven't considered? Yes, I would. Great. Go on to there. And then once it configures it back down, would you like to now speak to someone a little bit further as well? Great, fantastic. And actually have multiple options for customers, not just usher them into the same sort of customer flow. So that's some of the ways we're building it out as we speak. So it'll be quite exciting. So that's why I said the next 12 months is really interesting for us
Yeah,
from a tech perspective. But yes, need plenty of good resources for that.
Oh my
and
gosh,
capital.
I can imagine. Yeah, I think capital is probably the hardest one for everybody, and tech
Definitely.
isn't cheap, and developing those kinds of things. I mean, I work at Virtual, it's a tech platform.
Yep.
And, you know, to get the engineers to do any, what we might think is a small change, there's a lot that goes into it. It's time's money.
Yeah.
It's an expensive process. But one of my favorite questions to ask founders is, what's the biggest mistake you've made in building your business, and what have you learned from it?
Oh, wow. I'm going to answer this quite interestingly. When I started the company, I wasn't sure where we would be needed most, so I left that really open. And I think I mentioned it earlier that there was 4 or 5 different revenue streams that we could potentially go after. Either it be finance, insurance, either it be vehicle sourcing just for B2B, or direct to consumer. And I left that really open because I still didn't know where we would be needed. I could see the problems everywhere, if that makes sense. I guess it wasn't a big thing. Go back to the question for me and I'll try and re-answer it again. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So
I know what you're trying to say, which was the biggest challenge or the biggest mistake. Sorry, I'm back.
Biggest mistake.
So I'm trying to answer it in a way where it was a mistake to do that in some ways, but I knew it was going to lead me down the garden path to where the real problem was. And it's exactly what happened, because I sort of left it open enough, and I used to always say, I'm just letting it breathe for a bit just to work out where it is. And as soon as I could just see problems, that's where I realized the biggest piece in the automotive industry that hasn't been solved for, and I think everyone thinks it's going to be AI, is still customer experience. And I think it goes the same for every industry at the moment, where I believe the next industries that are going to start emerging, yes, they're going to have their AI and their tech, but they're also going to understand what customers want at exactly the same time and fulfill that as well. So that's equally as important for us. We want the two to be a really big blend. So I guess that was a mistake in the sense that we were all things to all people at the start, but then we were able to use that and actually narrow down and lock in and niche down on something that we knew was going to be really beneficial for the market. So we turned it into something really, really amazing as well. So
I feel like that was not that crazy a mistake. I was ready for some crash, something that went terribly wrong.
We've been pretty blessed. We've been pretty blessed with. We didn't start the company as BookATestDrive. It was more of a B2B automotive broker services.
Okay.
So that was ultimately where we started life. And I can tell you the story. The story was I was sitting there and going, "This is great. You know, we're starting to do quite well from a B2B perspective. Finance and leasing companies are using us, which is great." But I always had this dream to go direct to market, and I still didn't have the name. So I was like, I need something that's punchy, something that grabs your attention. So I just let it go. I just went, I'm going to be B2B, working things through. And one day I was speaking to one of my good friends and I said, "We don't book people in for test drives." And he goes, "Nah, we sort of don't do that. We get people the best price out there once they've been to a dealership." And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. We do that, and it is an easier process. Customers been in, we save them some money and time if they're shopping around, but we're still not addressing the real elephant in the room, which is customers are really nervous dealing with dealers. And I thought, why aren't we doing that? So it was that iteration in my own head, that brainstorming in my own head, and I thought, I think there's something really here. And it just kept nagging at me, just nagging and nagging, and I was like, book a test drive. So I went online one morning. I woke up at 3 a.m. and it just was going around. It goes, when you wake up, go and check it, and maybe have some other name like Book a Test Driver, or Test Driver with an R. Starting to think of other alternatives to it.
It's giving startup. When you start removing vowels, it's a startup.
It's exactly where my brain went. And the reason being was I just didn't think it was available. That was the real reason. And so I jumped on and it was, and I never called my accountant so fast to register a business name.
Love it.
Do it now. And yeah, so that was the premise. That was always the dream. That was always the goal. We want to be a household name. So our vision is to definitely, when people think of the words test drive, to own those words in the hearts and minds of customers. We want to be the first place people think of when they go, I'm looking at a car, I've looked at some different cars, I think I'm ready to go for a drive or go into store and actually have a look at it.
I'm going on Book a Test Drive.
That's what we want.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what we really want. That's our vision for the future. And our purpose is a really simple purpose. We want to empower customers in their car buying, but it's even more simple than that. We want to create experience that we ourselves would want to have. So it's so simple, and it talks to your point is Dad helped you to make sure that everything went smoothly and seamlessly. We see it exactly the same thing. Are we creating an experience we would send our family or friends into, and would we even want to have that experience as well? And if the answer is no, we failed, and if the answer is yes, we've succeeded. That's how we feel.
So you're the people's father, basically.
Yeah, basically. The wedding planner, the father, Eddie the expert, you name it.
I love it. It's just got a dad in my pocket at all times. It's fine.
We might have to steal that line.
Yeah, by all means. I won't even charge you for it. I'll give you that one for free. Some solid business advice right here. So when you're looking at expanding in the future, in terms of a business model perspective, where are your main revenue streams coming from at this stage, and would you look to transition them into another space or a different vertical?
Yeah, definitely. So at the moment, it's coming from vehicle procurement. It's coming from finance, insurance, and wholesale. They're the main pieces. We currently don't charge our customers as an introductory offer. We do have two options built in, so we do have a free and a paid plan, but we've actually waived that for customers. The reason we've created that way as well is some people just want that initial, just give me a hand, I'm happy to go with the free plan. Once they see the value of what we can bring, then they'll instantly switch over and go, no, actually, please just give me a hand, but we want to just give him some icing just to get him in. And the other challenge is that a lot of people just don't understand this service even could exist or does exist. So part of our job is actually to go out to market and actually educate, and that's going to be the biggest challenge for us moving forward, is just to tell people, yes, you can go directly into dealerships, yes, you can go directly onto a manufacturer's website and get put in touch with the dealership, but there is a better way. So that's what we're going to be focusing our attentions on. So the revenue stream will come through that as well, but we also see a potential SaaS model built in with the OEMs as well. So that's where we see we can take that application and bring it to market in a different array of ways as well. Not to mention we can probably do the same thing for the big dealer groups as well, whereby we can coordinate that where they've got multiple sites under the one brand as well. So multiple applications in the future that we think we can utilise.
So as an entrepreneur, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice you'd give to somebody who wants to start their own business, particularly in the tech sector?
I think focusing on execution above the idea is going to be really crucial as well. So just come out with the initial idea, find the problem statement, find the actual thing you're going to go after, and just know it's going to change multiple times more than you can realise. Same thing happened to me. We went out there with automotive broker services that we wanted to put to market. We wanted to go direct. We didn't know how that was going to be, in what capacity, and it fast forward 12 months after we launched, then BookATestDrive came. So if you've got the ideas, if you've got the tenacity, if you've got this burning desire to do something and get out there and get started, just do it and accept the fact that it's going to change. That's probably the biggest advice I can give upcomers.
I think as well it's about having the right team around you and the right people at the end of the day, because you can't just do these things on your own.
Yeah, you can, and it hurts your feelings pretty quickly. Certainly. So we're having a really good forged team around you, and just knowing your skill gap, your gaps that you have, and then recruiting for those very, very quickly. We're pretty comfortable where we are with some of our resources. We know we still want to get some really good skill set, because at the moment we're finding that we end up being generalists and all things to all people. We're now at the point now we need some real specialists to really hit it, bring it home. So
yeah. Absolutely. I just want to say thank you so much for coming to chat with me. It's so clear how passionate you are about the business, the industry as a whole, and it's really exciting to see where you're going to take this. And I mean, obviously there's so many opportunities for you as a founder and for your company, so I'm buzzing to see where it goes.
Thank you.